You are listening to Housekeepers Chat by the United States Department of Agriculture from 1927. Disclaimer: this is read from a historic archive document. Do not assume content reflects current scientific knowledge, policies, or practices. This broadcast was aired on Thursday, the 28th of April of 1927.
Having talked about cooking vegetables all winter, Aunt Sammy is now going to tell you how to get them all summer in the backyard garden. Aunt Sammy is cooperating with Better Homes in America this week, and today's program is for the women who want a better garden as well as a better home.
It's quite a far cry from cooking vegetables to raising them, as the announcer said. And it's not very often that the women of the house are left with the responsibility of raising the home food supply. Of course, it isn't a bad idea for us to know how to garden if we have to. Most women like to work in the garden. There's something about digging in fresh soil, watching the plants sprout and grow green, feeling the warm sun on you, while at the same time keeping it off the back of your neck. That seems to call us quite strongly. And then, of course, there's the reward of the harvest to consider. That's what I want to talk about mainly today. I really was surprised that so many folks are interested in these small vegetable gardens. Lately, I've received a number of requests for talks on vegetable gardening, and since we aim to please, here's the talk. But first, I want to warn you that the menfolks may say that we're interested in gardens from the theoretical standpoint, but not from the actual working standpoint. Of course, we know we're interested in both sides. It's a bit too late to talk about planting the garden this late in the year. Most of us have ours in already. The radishes are ready by now in most parts of the country, I suppose, at least the early ones. With the garden in and growing, it's natural to think that the job's well done and that there's nothing much to do now except wait for the results. But do you know that, with proper care, you can find something to pick or pull or dig in your garden all summer and far into the autumn? It's a fact, but you'll have to keep right on planting and caring for the crops in order to get that result. At least, that's what one of Uncle Sam's garden advisors told me today. It's like this. I'm thinking of trying a little gardening myself this summer. So the other day I went around to this expert gardener, whom we'll call Mr. Jones because the name's so rare, and told him about it. He told me that caring for the late spring and summer garden is just about as important as starting the early spring garden. I told Mr. Jones, as we call him, that I thought I'd do a bit of gardening this summer, and asked him if he had any lettuce seed left, as I wanted to plant some more in order to have fresh lettuce coming on about all summer. He gave me some seed, pleasantly enough. "That's seeds of the Grand Rapids variety," he said. "It stands the heat well and should furnish you with plenty of summer lettuce."
"That's seeds of the Grand Rapids variety,"
he said.
"It stands the heat well and should furnish you with plenty of summer lettuce."
"Is this a head lettuce?" I asked.
"No,"
answered Mr. Jones.
"It's what we call a loose-leaf lettuce. That is, it doesn't form a true head, but it contains more vitamins and mineral salts than well-bleached head lettuce. Not quite so crisp and brittle as head lettuce, though."
I took out my pencil and a pad of paper. When it comes to gardening, I'm willing to let the men talk, and I listen. Is there anything else I should plant just now? I wanted to know.
"Yes, you can plant beans,"
said Mr. Jones.
"Plant more snap beans, and don't forget to set a dozen poles, and to plant a few seeds of the Kentucky wonder bean around them. They call this variety of bean lazy wife. I don't know why, unless it's because mother or daughter won't have to stoop to gather the beans. Kentucky wonder makes excellent snap beans. Later on, if any of the pods ripen, you can shell the beans out and use them as dry beans. Then I'd figure on 15 or 20 late tomato plants. You probably have early tomatoes planted already, but sometimes the hot weather kills some of the earlier plants. It's a good idea to have a few plants of a later setting coming on to make fall tomatoes."
I don't want to have to spade the ground all over again, I said. I don't like that part of it very much.
You won't have to spade it over again.
Mr. Jones told me.
If the ground is very hard, it'll pay you, though. It's also a good idea to work in a little extra fertilizer.
My garden dries out fast. Every year we have trouble with that. I told my gardener friend about it. I added that I sprinkled the ground a little every evening last year, but that it didn't seem to do so very much good. Some of the tomatoes burned up.
Your soil is a gravelly loam like mine.
Mr. Jones said positively.
When you sprinkle the crops frequently, you simply bring the feeding roots of the plants close to the surface of the ground. Then, as soon as the soil dries out a little, the sun burns the vegetables. A better method of watering your garden is to make a little furrow along the rows with the corner of your hoe. Then let the water run from the hose into this furrow and along the rows of plants. After the ground is well soaked near the plants, you might draw a little dry soil into the furrow. Cover the wet earth and conserve the moisture. It's best to give garden crops a very thorough watering about once a week, and then not apply any more water until the plants really need it. Remember this, most garden crops are injured if they are allowed to wilt to any extent.
I wish you would tell me something about cultivating the garden in the summer, Mr. Jones, said I. Is it necessary to keep the surface soil loose? My soil packs badly after a rain.
Well, I know this.
Mr. Jones replied.
It pays to keep the crops pretty well cultivated. Keep the weeds down. Weeds are robbers. They steal both plant food and soil moisture. Also keep the surface soil loose and mellow to a depth of about 2 inches. Maybe you've noticed that I go over my garden quite often with a wheel hoe. Some folks call it a cultivator. Well, I use the wheel hoe just as soon as the ground is dry enough after a rain, and also within a day or two after watering. This keeps the weeds from getting a start, and at the same time stirs the surface soil and lets the air into the soil.
That's news to me, I admitted. Mr. Jones has surprised me more than once, but I know that he's made a lifetime study of gardens, so I listened to his advice. Then I asked, what crops should I plant for a late fall garden? I don't want the garden to end in July or August.
Plant late cabbage, carrots, beets, turnips, snap beans, spinach, and lettuce. Those are some of the best vegetables for the late garden. I find it pays to plant snap beans often throughout the whole summer. Fall peas are often successful. I plant fall peas just a little after midsummer.
Isn't late sweet corn good too?
Why, certainly.
Mr. Jones assured me.
Late sweet corn's fine if you have room in your garden for it. In fact, my wife tells me the late crop is often finer and sweeter than the early crop.
Would you advise me to have beets and carrots for winter storage? I wanted to know. The gardenist slowly nodded his head in the affirmative. He told me that he considers it a good idea to sow carrot and beet seed along in June. He said that June plantings produce crops just the right time for winter storage, in the cellar or pit.
And there's another late garden trick that you don't want to neglect.
He added.
That is, start some late lettuce plants during the latter part of the summer. Then transplant them to the cold frame, if you have one, for late fall and early winter lettuce. It may be necessary to put up a little cheesecloth shade over the plants, as they're very sensitive to the sun during the late summer. In fact, there are quite a number of little ideas in home garden management that are worth trying out.
I told Mr. Jones that I'm sure of that. I already had quite a few of them jotted down. You have given me quite a number of those ideas yourself, said I, and I'm planning to get some more seed and continue planting just as you suggest.
If you lived further south,
added Mr. Jones,
you could go on planting until late in the fall and have vegetables from your home garden pretty nearly all winter. But it's worth trying out in any location. Any careful gardener will be paid for his trouble in having a late garden.
I told my friend I was sure of that, then thanked him for his help and left, eager to begin plans for my own late garden. Tomorrow I shall talk about, well, perhaps I'd better not tell because I might change my mind. Anyway, the subject I have in mind does not concern cooking.
This broadcast was researched and produced by Breakaway Empire LLC.